Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming back. And welcome to this fourth session today, discussing the boundary conditions for EOSC. This session particularly will be looking at how we can achieve an equitable EOSC. And just as a reminder, again, we will take all the questions either in the chat or in the Slido, where you need to fill in the hashtag EOSC Symposium Ask 22 OCT. So, yeah, as I said, the session is about how we can achieve an equitable EOSC, and we will be discussing the challenges, but also the opportunities for Southeastern and Eastern Europe. And an equitable EOSC is an EOSC that is inclusive across all of Europe, and that brings benefits to all member states and all of the associate countries of the European Union. My name is Cathrin Stöver. I am the co-chair of the EOSC Executive Board. And when I'm not working for EOSC, I'm CCO in GÉANT. Before we start, let me introduce the panel today. So I'm very pleased to be joined by Kristina Lillemets, Anastas Mishev, and Burcu Ortakaya today. I'll just quickly go through and introduce my panelists. So Kristina Lillemets is advisor for Estonian National Research and Education Network Strategic Planning. Before that, she was the Director of Infrastructure at Information Technology Foundation for Education HITSA in Estonia, and also the head of the Estonian National Research and Education Network, EEnet. Before joining HITSA in 2015, Kristina held a position as Operations Director Baltics at Linux Telkom in Estonia, and I think at this moment she's also a member of the EOSC Sustainability Working Group. Then we have Anastas Mishev. Anastas joins us from North Macedonia. He's professor at the Faculty of Computer Science and Engineering at St. Cyril and Methodius University in Skopje. He has participated in the implementation of over 30 international projects targeting the development of IT infrastructures and IT education. Anastas was national coordinator of several e-infrastructure projects and is currently a work package leader in the NIFOS Europe project, which is one of the regional EOSC projects under the 5B call. Anastas is also an EOSC governance board representative for North Macedonia. And last not least, we have Burcu Ortakaya. Burcu has participated and supported research projects within the different research institutions of TUBITAK. TUBITAK is the Scientific and Technology Research Council for Turkey. She worked for European, regional and national e-infrastructure projects at a management, policy and international liaison level, representing ULAK BIM, which is the Turkish Academic Network and Information Center. Burcu has been participating in EOSC governance board meetings since November 2019, and currently she's coordinating the National High Performance Computing Competence Center activities in the frame of the EuroCC project. So that's the quick introduction to my panelists. What I also want to do is give a quick introduction to the panel itself. So we have an hour, and I hope not to be speaking much at all. So this 1 hour session will look at the challenges and opportunities the EOSC environment brings to Southeastern and Eastern Europe. And I will start with asking panelists to give a short opening statement on the state of the open science landscape in their country or in their region. And the conversation will then turn to policy challenge, consider the service provisioning, and also we want to take the user perspective. We want to discuss how the level playing field could be improved and whether more specific funding for specific regions could make a difference to the developments of EOSC in these countries. So in general, we want to look what enablers we need to be put in place and by whom. So to start all this, can I ask Burcu to start and give us your introductory statement? And then I will ask after that Anastas and Kristina. Burcu, over to you, please.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me? It's
Yes,
okay?
very well. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Cathrin. And at the beginning, I would like to thank you for the invitation of me in this panel. Yeah, thank you very much. Also, the introduction about myself. At this point, I may indicate that I would like to mention about our country level open science landscape and challenges and also opportunities. You may already know that since we do not have formal regional collaborations in terms of open science currently, so I'm sure that Anastas and the other colleagues we have in panel provide the regional activities and challenges about EOSC and also the opportunities. In this panel and in my talk, I try to give main achievements and pillars about the open science in Turkey. It is really clear that and common that I think the open science policy is one of the most important pillars of the open science. Regarding this emergency of open science, TÜBİTAK, the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey, as you indicated in my intro, prepared the open science policy to provide a scientific frame for the national open science movement. In this policy, we try to cover management, storage, archiving, curation, and digital preservation of the publications. Of course, certainly the research data originated from the projects that are supported by TÜBİTAK or directly carried out by the research institutions have been considered in that policy. As a first step, national research support programs have already been adopted this policy, but at the level of metadata sharing, regarding the whole data sharing, it is still optional. Since you may all know that the policy is a typical top-down approach, so we have to need more time to reach up a large-scale adoption and application of the policy. So another important pillar of the open science is the frames that are related to data sharing. Considering the publication and data sharing, of course, the user community needs requires suitable platforms for sharing their publication and data. Regarding this need, ULAKBİM, it is the Turkish NREN, has developed the open data repository named Aperta, and also at this point I would like to indicate that Aperta based on Invenio RDM, and also ULAKBİM developed the search engine that is called Harman. It is the open archive initiative of the country. Additionally, national journal archives as well as the indexing services have already been provided to the community for a long time by ULAKBİM. Apart from TÜBİTAK and ULAKBİM's effort, I would like to indicate another important organization, that is the Council of Higher Education. It has been strongly recommending open academic archives to the universities and policies. So it's also another important player regarding the open science in Turkey. For the next important pillar of the open science, of course, we can consider computation and data infrastructures. TRUBA is the national science infrastructure, has been providing high performance and data intensive computing services as well as the scientific data warehouses almost for 20 years. The infrastructure provides production level services, and it is open for all the researchers through the country. Until today, the infrastructure has a collaborative background through the participation of the EU-funded projects, such as Cigarette project series in the Southeastern Europe region, and also EG projects, and also EEnet grid series in the Mediterranean region, and so on. So at present, I would like to indicate our current international collaboration right now. At present, Euro-HPC partnership within the pre-exascale Spanish consortium and also EuroCC project could be considered as an important collaboration for the infrastructure right now. Finally, we applied to EOSC Association for being a member, you know, and for almost more than 1 year, I have tried to involve into the EOSC Governance Board meetings, and I'm very happy to see such a wonderful group over there, and also you have to push work too much us, because you provide many documentations and you provide marvelous collaboration over there. Finally, EOSC Association for being a member, we get effectively take part into the new evolution of the making new way of the science. So we know that there is a new evolutionary way, and we have to follow up this way. We work together with you, being a member of EOSC Association. So considering the sustainability of the infrastructure, it's also very important. We know all that. We have new project just started at the beginning of this year. This is national project, and funded by Strategy and Budget Presidency of Turkey with approximately 15 million euros budget. This project aims to renovate infrastructure totally. So we are happy to reach sustainability level regarding this infrastructure. Another important player of the open science in Turkey is the research infrastructures and scientific clusters. Regarding the open science in Turkey, national research infrastructures belongs to the Ministry of Industry and Technology with a dedicated law. The law defines all the regulations and needed functions of the national research infrastructures. The funding mechanism of the research infrastructures is provided through the national investment programs managed by, again, Strategy and Budget Presidency. Currently, we have nationally 5 research infrastructures, and 6 new research infrastructures are on the evaluation and recognition stage. As a final, I am trying to wrap up about this short status. Yes, we have open science policy, okay. We have sustainable infrastructure, that's fine and great. We have strong research infrastructure, yeah, that's also okay. We have a very big research communities. We have a great awareness about open science, open access through the participation of international projects and also open air projects, and there are many open access activities in Turkey for a long time. But we have challenges. Still we have challenges in the frame of open science. So in this panel, within the next turns, I think we can talk about the challenges as well as the opportunities. But as a final, the challenges based on the mainly collaboration for us, I mean our challenges, collaborations, international liaisons, and additionally we have to need more matured research data management frames and scientific domains. So within the next turns, I would like to give a little bit more information about the challenges. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Burcu, for this initial statement. Anastas, can I hand over to you? And I understand you're not only talking for your country, but for the region, the southeastern region.
Yes, thank you, Cathrin, and thanks to the Secretariat for having me as a panelist here. I'm here not as a to talk about the open science activities and the EOSC related activities in the country, but quite in a broader region of Southeast Europe. I'm here to talk about what the NIFOS project, NIFOS Europe project, one of the 5B projects or the EOSC implementation projects, is doing in the Southeast European region in the area of open science cloud. I would like to begin that here in the Southeast Europe, we very much value and cherish the importance of the regional initiatives and projects that were targeted toward the Southeast European region. Within this project helped actually our region to close the digital gap to the rest of Europe. I would like just to mention the transition from CERN projects, and now all the members of almost all countries in the region are members of GÉANT. Then there were the SIGRID series of projects, and most of us ended up in EGI. Then there were the HPC and the VSIM projects, and now lots of countries in the region participate in Euro HPC and Euro CC projects. Finally, there is NIFOS now that is driving us toward the EOSC and the European Open Science Cloud. As for the landscaping of the region, NIFOS has done a very comprehensive landscape exercise for the region, mapping more than 1,000 open science stakeholders of different categories, categories like creators of research data, consumers of research data, open science supporters, open science facilitators, funders, etc. And we even put it on a very nice regional map that you can find on the NIFOS website that offers access by country, by category, to find all those stakeholders. And even the data set in the spirit of open data is published even this data set is published on the Zenodo. And I believe that the landscape working group could benefit a lot from this and from possibly even more collaboration with NIFOS project. And on the basis of this very comprehensive exercise, the team that has contacted the supporting the organizations, the service providers, and the data providers organizations from this list, and collected a lot of data, for more than 90 resources, systemized it in the service delivery template, or the new name, whatever it is now current for the document describing these resources, which includes a lot of generic, a lot of thematic services, but a lot of repositories of data also. Closely collaborating with the onboarding task force, we have devised our onboarding procedure, as well as a special framework for categorization of the services based on parameters such as the technical readiness level, such as the integration level, and service management maturities. Also, we did a lot of work focusing on the repositories in a close collaboration with the open air. All of these things, all of these documents are published in our deliverable, which again, in the spirit of open access, are published on the Zenodo platform, where you just have to search for NII for OS or the NIFOS project. In parallel with this, a very equally important track beside the service orientation of NIFOS has been pursuing actively in the organization and the organizational and the policy aspect of the open science. That is the other strong pillar of EOSC, beside its service orientation and the support for service providers and for service onboarding. The equally important pillar of EOSC is the policy part and the aspect of organizing national open science initiatives. There is a very nice deliverable that has been produced by the team of NIFOS that targets, that describes the national OS initiatives, that gives a nice list of current national open science initiatives, not only in the region, but wider in Europe, and proposes different models and process workflows on how to set up these national open science cloud initiatives. It's very important to keep in mind that within the NIFOS project, we have 15 member states, and more than half of that are not member states in the European Union, but associated countries, which makes this challenge even more interesting and even more challenging. All these exercises are even more challenging. So just to end up this short introduction, I think that we are on the right track right now to setting up the scene and to start working on really onboarding the services, to start working with the user communities and engaging more user communities, but in parallel working on the policy aspects and helping the countries and the institution members build up their national open science initiatives and identify their role in the future EOSC organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Anastas, for this overview. And Kristina, over to you from an Estonian point of view.
Oh, I had to mute myself. I thought you, Cathrin, were going to do this, but hello to everybody who is watching this panel or listening. I'm going to briefly start with an overview from the Estonian side. And the Estonian Ministry of Education and Research is currently updating the Organization of Research and Development Act. The aim is to modernize the act to allow it to reflect the modern research and development system in a better way and to include new topics. And one of those new topics is in the act is the open science, and research integrity is the second one. In the next few months, open science will be discussed in an ad hoc working group. And the goal is to distill the notions that's required to be in the act. On the level of strategic planning, a new development plan for research, development, innovation, and entrepreneurship will be launched in 2021. And one of its supporting documents will be the Open Science Framework. A balancing act in Estonia is to see which elements can be put into the policy document, the framework document, and which elements need specific legislation in the act. So policy making in the field of open science, for example, the integration of open science into state research policy is the responsibility of our Ministry of Education and Research. But the responsibility of the Estonia Research Agency is to coordinate the implementation of the goals of open science, including the organization of the work of the open science coordinating body. I think that's pretty much sums it up what's going on in the landscape in a very short way. So back to you, Cathrin.
Thank you. So with that, we have our initial statements of the landscape. I'll just stop sharing for a moment so I can have a look at the questions in the chat, which otherwise is difficult for me to see. So we don't yet have any questions in the chat. We also don't yet have any questions in Slido. So then I would say we will continue with the questions that we are foreseeing ourselves here. So I think a lot of you have already talked about policy, and you know, I hear about reorganization. I hear about a lot of you know, activities to support national open science initiatives. So I mean, I understand these are ongoing processes in your countries. Can you describe a little bit where how these processes have started and where you're going and where you see, you know, they will be, you know, how are they driven, and, you know, do you see any challenges on the policy level coming up? Can I start with Burcu again?
Yeah, sure. Cathrin, I think in general, policy challenges may be addressed directly to the open science policies itself. I mean that the open science policy should indicate and cover the issues clearly. For example, in terms of research data management, planning related to fair data, collaboration between the stakeholders, and sustainability of the liaisons and communications. So if the policy addresses these important issues very clearly and strictly, at this time, some problems occurs in the adoption and implementation of the policy. This is the policy level challenge of the open science policy. I think it's a little bit complicated sentence, but you all understand what I mean. It is the policy challenge of the open science policy. I think it is very, very important to create a solid link between the adaptation or implementation process of the open science to the support and incentive mechanisms directly. Also, it should be supported, these open science, this kind of support mechanisms and incentive mechanisms will help to adoption and implementation of the open science. I think there should be such kind of balance. If we define very deep, concrete, and certain open science policy, we will get some problems and crises related to adoption and implementation process. Whenever we provide a very light and very weak open science policy, there is no other choice or solution for the open science overall for the country. So there should be get a balance in terms of the open science content and to drive good adoption and implementation process. Right now, we are trying to implementing stage of the open science. As I indicated previously, there is a national support program for research projects that are funded by TUBITAK. This national research support funding program has already been adopted this policy, trying to implementing on the research projects, but only metadata and publication level, there is an obligation to share. Regarding the whole data sharing, it is still optional. So in a time, we will try to cover all the open science issues to drive within the content of this open science policy. Yeah, that's all now.
Thank you. That's very interesting. The balance between how challenging can your open science policy be, and then you run into problems of adaptation and implementation, and maybe you are creating then frustration. So I guess it's about realistic
Yes.
policies. Yeah, I think that's very important. Anastas, what's your take on this?
Let me unmute. Thank you. Regarding the policy challenges, I would like to speak on two levels about the policy challenges. One is on the country or on the national level within the NIFOS Europe consortium. But I would also like to address the question of policy wider in the future EOSC, in the EOSC association or in the future forms of EOSC organization. And both of them have the same denominator. It's the National Open Science Initiatives. We believe that establishing an open science initiative in each country is a big priority, and we like to, and we put a lot of effort into working on this. The people working in the NIFOS project put a lot of effort in providing all the necessary information, all the necessary best practices, but all the necessary models and workflows on how to establish this, whether it should be top-down, a bottom-up approach, or a meeting in the middle between those two approaches. Whatever approach is taken, that can successfully lead to establishing a national open science initiatives. In the region, we have already classified, I would say, the countries in the NIFOS Europe region or in the Southeast Europe region into three major categories. The one that have already in place national open science country, and yes, we have countries in the region like Serbia or Cyprus that have national open science policies already established. Majority of the countries are currently in the national OS strategy and planning document, so there are some some national strategy plans, officially established initiatives exist. And then there's the third group of the countries that have initial actions only, that have their plans and declarations that they will step up in the process, and hopefully we hope that the NIFOS project will support them and hopefully establish a form of national open science initiative. But the other aspect that I want to tackle about the policy is that at the European level, maybe we should try to talk a little bit more and define more clearly the role of the national open science initiatives in the EOSC association. Maybe similarly, like the other types of organizations and associations are established for the other types of organizations like NRENs or like national grid initiatives, etc. I believe that current model of membership in the EOSC association is quite difficult to grasp this concept. On the other hand, it's a very open model of membership. Everyone that can apply and that fulfills the criteria can become a partner at the EOSC association. But the proposed model, I don't think that it reflects somehow the national. Yes, there are the mandated members, of course, there are the mandated members, but the concepts of having a flat fees and will put a lot of small countries, like the countries in the region that I represent here, will put a lot of small countries, especially small institutions, in a position to opt out, having trouble to cover the same fee that a huge research institute in Western Europe will not so big problem to cover. So that's also something that we need to discuss as a policy challenge for the countries in the Southeast European region. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that input. I mean, I think that's one of the first points that you were making. I like very much, this, the focus on national open science initiatives. I would completely agree. I think that is that's a very important one. We've always seen that, an NREN is always as strong as its neighbors. And in a similar way, I would say, an open science policy in one country is as strong as the open science policies in the neighboring countries, because these things, they work, because there is a momentum created among the member states, among the associate countries. And so, one's own national strategy is stronger when I have strong neighbors. And I think this is something that we're looking in at the moment, definitely. When it comes, I mean, of course, Anastas, you and I, we've discussed the membership model of the EOSC Association before, and I'm very happy that you made the point here in this forum, the plea from a smaller country to look at the membership fees. What I want to say is that, of course, the EOSC Association has not at this point in time adopted membership fees. This is the decision that we will take in the General Assembly. The first General Assembly will be held in December. It is not a decision that the founding members of the EOSC Association wanted to take. However, we were very many times asked, what is a budgetary number? Put a finger in the air and tell us a number. So we did that. And we had to do that flat because it had to be simplistic. So I wouldn't say that this conversation is over. So I'm very glad that you raised it here. But Kristina, over to you and the Estonian experience on policy challenges, and maybe also what policy and how policy adaptation and implementation, go hand in hand.
Thank you. I do agree with what has been said by my two other panelists. I would say that from Estonian point of view, we are making some progress, but we are not there yet. The challenge will be how to implement it at the end of the day, and how to communicate it, whom to involve when we are talking about legislation and frameworks and all that kind of part. And I think that definitely the implementation will be a challenge. It will be a challenge for the ones who are the policy side and the ones who are really need to implement it. So, but I think it's almost everywhere the same. So I cannot kind of take out anything specific that could be specific to Estonia, to be honest.
Okay, thank you. So I have stopped sharing my screen, and immediately somebody is sharing now the Slido. Thank you for that. I've also looked into the chat. So Anastas, you're not alone. The colleagues in Georgia are agreeing with you that we need to look at the membership fees. So there are some questions here from the audience, which I would like to ask our panel. So the first question here is, what is your biggest concern related to equity and EOSC on any level? Is there one concern, and how might it be, I guess, addressed? Or how might equity be ensured? Or how may this concern be addressed? Who wants to take this one?
Maybe I should just give my view on this. I believe that the equity can be differently seen from the different roles. I think that the equity from the user's point of view would be accessibility to all, regardless of the scientific community, of the region that they come from, etc. Service providers might have a different view on the equity. They will be concerned about distribution, especially the ones that will be taking care of some of the core services. For them, the equity would mean that they will be somehow equally represented and equally funded to support their effort doing for the benefit of the community. There might be different views from the funding funding agencies. I think it really depends. But I believe that it's important point here that we are trying to make is that EOSC is there for every scientist in Europe, regardless of the scientific community and regardless of the place where they're coming from. So for me, that's the biggest equity point. That's the biggest point where EOSC should prevail and maintain.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's I think this is the important reminder here that, EOSC is built to have better, stronger, more integrated European science and even global science at one stage. So where every scientist has the same opportunities, independent of where they sit. Does anybody else have an opinion on this? Yes,
maybe I can also add very similar point of mine. As a service provider, we have already really concern about the service provisioning and also service infrastructure of the EOSC. We are waiting some kind of equitable visioning at this level. Actually, we are trying to understand how we get involved into the tiered structure of the EOSC. As far as I understand that up to now, due to our gaps regarding the a little bit out of the infra EOSC 5P project, there is some kind of gap and deficiencies in terms of us. In terms of minimal viable EOSC environment, we don't have any responsibility or any service provisioning adaptation. So beyond this, the another equality subject prior for us is related to the users. Within the next turn, we will discuss about the service provisioning and the user perspective. There is also some kind of resistance coming from the users that we have currently. I think many of the country have similar problems related to the users' habits and cultural doing way of science. So I would like to state that there is a stressed issue related to the service portfolio and service providing in EOSC.
Do you want to go on in that theme? I mean, we have that as the next point, what is the user perspective here? So Burcu, do you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. It's also similar to the subject. Actually, last night I talked with my colleague about the service provisioning. He said me, remember, when we first entered the grid infrastructures, we forced our users to work on the grid infrastructures. And most of the users did want to change the way of they were used to work on. So this enforcement caused a large number of users to move away from the structure. For this reason, service provisioning should be performed very carefully, and the portfolio have the services that are widely used and certainly easy to use, because most of the users decided to continue use their habits and the tools that are currently used. Transition to a new services and platforms will always encounter resistance by the users. Yeah, it's common, and we are also waiting a cultural transformation during the open science phenomenology. The service provisioning will require extensive and strong user support with ongoing training and also maybe help desks and many other extra facilities. The common feature of the successful and widely used service is that they are easy to use in all over. The users are more concerned with doing their job easily and quickly. They do not really concern about the technical difficulties in the background of the services or other things. They are just would like to submit their jobs very easily and quickly. So it's very important, and we are not sure about the reaction of the user community. So we have to think about and care about the user's perspective in terms of the service provisioning.
Very
Yes,
good. Kristina, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I fully agree with Burcu. I think it's spot on what she just said. I also been thinking, or we're in Estonia, have been thinking that it will not be easy to share the services, especially when the end users have to choose them from a catalog or from a portal or whatever it will be. And will they actually use it? How it will be supported, and so on. So Burcu said it out very well. I don't have anything to add. I think it will be a big challenge. And I'm not sure that I think the services which are currently already being used across Europe or that are available, it might stay the same. We might not reach the end goal of using the services how we wish it to, or the EOSC wishes it to be. So we'll see about that. But awareness and support, user awareness and user support and implementation, I think it's a challenge, and I only hope for a better future, a good future, but we will see.
Very interesting. Anastas, what's your view on this?
Well, speaking from a point of view of lots of various types of institution here in the NIFOS project, our common conclusion is that we would like to see EOSC built with reliable services by strong service providers. It doesn't matter how big they are, service providers, but as long as there are strong providers that have adopted a level of service management, etc., and can provide really services useful for the community, we believe that will keep EOSC alive. We invest a lot into this in the NIFOS project. We have even built our small pre-production environment, I would say, that somehow looks very much like the EOSC core, the core that helps us support the service integration from the point of view of service providers, make them onboard their services into this pre-production environment, and then help us and help also the users evaluate the maturity of the services, and then hopefully just transfer those onboarded services to whatever central catalog in whatever manner it will be decided later in the EOSC, manually, automatically, machine to machine, or whatever way will be preferred by EOSC. But it's important to support the service providers to have strong, to enhance and to adapt an appropriate level of service management, because that's the only way we can support the user communities. And we involve also the user communities in this process through the demonstrators. We have selected services that we want to deeply involve users into this before we evaluate their usefulness and their maturity to be published on a larger European scale.
Thank you. So I think that's very interesting. We have 2 more questions prepared in this panel that I would like to get to, and I think they are probably related and can be answered in one go. And that is the question, you know, how do we achieve a level playing field, and what enablers do we need to put in place, and who needs to put these into place? And the reason for that question is that, of course, you know, I mean, I just looked at the program over the last 3 days, and there were very few voices from Eastern Europe and Southern and Southeastern Europe. We look at the membership in the association, and there's very few institutions that have, you know, that have put a candidate membership. We look at the landscaping report from the working group landscape, and we see that, you know, there's many red spots on the maps that Jan Hušák has prepared. So, you know, what is it that we need to do, you know, as a community across Europe, you know, as member states, as associate countries, as European Union, as EOSC Association, the community is such. What do we need to do to ensure that, you know, we increase, you know, we have a better level playing field? So if, Kristina, if I can ask you that question.
I think for me, it's quite difficult to answer this question, because I think if I look how much there is involvement in all kind of EOSC related working groups or tasks, or I mean, it has for the last few years it has been one of the main topics, and I think that the level of adoption is maybe the issue of how fast do we move in this area from country to country. I think from Estonian point of view, we are quite well informed, because we participate in a lot of EOSC related activities, and I think more is the question how it all will be funded in the future. I think this is one of the biggest questions. What will it mean to research and development in our own country? How to adapt to this new reality? I think in Estonia we have taken it quite cautiously, and we are making, I wouldn't say very fast steps, but I think it's also depends on the nationality. We want to understand what we are doing, and to be honest, it has been quite confusing times to understand what is EOSC all about, and how to be able to navigate in this new landscape. Let's put it this way. But I don't have a better answer to this currently, but it time will tell, and also as always we do it together with other countries, with our neighboring countries, with the Nordic countries, and I think if we would have this panel 6 months from now, and then I think the landscape or the view would be much different.
Very good. Well, we hope to have an EOS stakeholder forum around April, so maybe we can pick it up then again. Anastas, what's your view?
Well, I already opened some and tackled some of the things related to the leveling the playing field and to the enablers. I think that it's important to make EOSC accessible to everyone, especially to the smaller countries, smaller institutions, smaller research group, etc. Whatever it takes to provide them the resources needed and to do the excellence research that we all thrive to. And toward this, here in the Southeast Europe, we again believe in the regional initiatives. We believe that these regional initiatives should continue to receive support and continue to enable scalability in the region. There are a lot of small players here in the region that by themselves, it may be very difficult to cope with everything, with those challenges. But within a regional organization and within the regional initiatives, I think that we can do much more. And we believe that it should help us build a really strong service-oriented, not just a soft layer EOSC, but a really strong service-oriented EOSC supporting the user communities. We also believe in strong national, strong regional centers in the public infrastructure that should be very important to EOSC. I know that there is a discussion that go otherwise from this, but even though when we speak of clouds, we usually mean centralization of resources at some big providers, but having these strong national and regional data centers and service providers can be a really big societal driver for the CE region, stopping the brain drain, closing the digital divide. So I think it's important to continue the support of the regional initiatives here, at least here in the Southeast European region, and I suppose it goes all the way Europe. Thank you.
Very good. A strong voice for regional initiatives. Burcu, over to you.
Yeah. Actually, I think the EOSC and the way is very clear and open for almost matured countries, all the matured countries or partners. There is no problem. The problem is related to a little bit less matured or relatively less matured countries in terms of the open science elements. For example, actually, before giving the example, I would like to explain my point of view. Since the open science is an open phenomenology and there is no need to create playing fields in terms of regions, borders, or any other identifications. We do not need to consider such kind of regional or borders or any identification related boundaries. I don't think an effective playing field is provided when the players are very competent and playing field is the huge one. First, let us limit the playing field, and then focus on the one domain for each play. For example, let us choose research data management for social sciences, for example, or fair data for bioinformatics. These are all such examples. Then include the players of different maturity levels into the playing field. Such a structure will provide an effective relationship between the matured ones to the relatively less matured ones. I think this kind of playing fields will give the results very quickly. The playing, regarding my idea, the playing fields should be focused on the scientific clusters that are already indicated by ESFRI. We all know that ESFRI have already defined the scientific clusters within the parallel alignment to the EOSC association and EOSC environment. So the new game aims to provide a preparation phase for the partners who need to join into the big game. Yeah, that's why I am, it's also my country's experience. We have still some deficiencies providing the good players into the play. So it is also, I would like to complete the session with the next item. As the enabler, in terms of my point of view, as the enabler, scientific clusters should be represented by together with management, research service providers and researchers, of course. Regarding the question about whom, by whom, actually it is a little bit very hard question. It depends on the country's situation. In my country, it's not me, I can say that, but maybe the funding bodies, it depends on the structure and where I from country. In our case, most possibly it is the Ministry of Technology and Industry should be the good and right enabler. As a result, if you would like to consider the reliability of the system or a process or an association or an organization, we must know that the system can be reliable as much as the weakest part. So we need to increase maturity levels of the countries. I mean that not the whole country, of course, any of the country can provide some matured activities in some cases, but maybe social science, for example, maybe social science needs to be supported by the matured ones. So we have to provide some flow and transition, experience transition from matured one to the relatively less ones. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I think we have we have time for one more question from the audience before we go into the clinic, where of course we can this afternoon continue the conversation. There is a question here on the panel's view on enforcing or on the feasibility of enforcing national level open science policy for projects or services which are funded by external sources. I think, Burcu, you already said earlier that enforcing service provisioning is difficult. What about enforcing national level open science policies?
Yeah.
Anastas, do you have a view, or Burcu, do you want to continue?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I also indicated in my previous turn, yeah, there should be also, we need a balance. It's not good to enforce the users to do something or share their data for the researchers directly using this open science policy. It is not good, but we have to provide some kind of selection or optional phases. It's a transition phase. And we need to, open science will create a cultural transformation into the research communities, users, and also policymakers. So we need to have some time. We need to get balanced open science policies, both at service level, and also other policy levels.
Very good. Does anybody have an opinion on that? Anastas, yes.
Yeah, I would like just to add that from a risk management point of view, to avoid such a risk, that is why it's very important to have harmonized open access and open science policies throughout Europe. And then if we have those harmonized open access policies, if we talk to each other and we analyze each other's policies and try to harmonize them with each other, then we will never face this kind of dilemma.
Thank you. Kristina, any final words from you in this panel?
I agree with with Burcu and Anastas, but I think that some level of enforcing is needed, because change in general is difficult, and as much as we wish that it's easy, it never will be. But there is also, it's a balancing act as always. So but on the question, I was thinking about it actually. I've been thinking about it for a while now when I was reading it, that but what if what is intriguing is what the policy should take priority. And well, I hope that the national level open science policies and the service external, let's say, policies, as Anastas said, would be harmonized in a sense that that there isn't such a big difference. And I think Europe is going that way currently, because I think all of the almost 170 people who are watching or listening, they all more or less active in open science policies in their respective countries as well. So I think at the end of the day, the national level and the European level will not be there. There won't be such a big difference. And I hope that Burcu and Anastas also agree with me, and Cathrin, you as well.
Very good. And with that, I think we come to the end of this session. I would like to thank Burcu, Anastas, and Kristina for being the panelists today and for answering the questions here towards a more equitable EOSC in the future, and the inclusion of the full inclusion of Southeastern and Eastern Europe.